welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli, that's Bud Elliott, that's Danny Cannell. I'm Chip Patterson, coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and all across the 24/7 Sports Facebook network. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash the like, and come and join us in the chat. Draft season rolling on. We're wrapping it up this week, but after doing the quarterbacks and the pass catchers, wide receivers and tight ends, after doing the Oklahoma drill draft with our offensive linemen, defensive linemen, running back, and linebackers, we've got the coach draft. For those of you who are not familiar, it is 6 rounds. We want 1 head coach, 1 offensive coordinator, 1 defensive coordinator, and 3 wild card position coaches or other assistants. We will be getting into that, including a review of last year's draft coming up in just a little bit. But as we are joining you here on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we are hours away from the release of the future SEC schedule. It will be released later on Wednesday night, but boy, that thing is springing more leaks than a hose that got into a fight with a squirrel. All right, so we've already started to got little bits and pieces. When I was putting the rundown together last night, I was going to ask for some expectations, games you wanted to see, things you wanted to see. But now that we've already got the knowledge of, an Alabama-Georgia game in Tuscaloosa in 2024, we've already got the knowledge that every SEC team will play either Texas or Oklahoma in the very first year of this, schedule that we're going with, at least for a little bit, 8-game schedule. Danny, what would you like to see, or based on the leaks that we have here at the time of taping, what are you expecting or excited about from the schedule release?
The Oklahoma-Texas angle. I mean, I think that's what everybody's going to be intrigued by, to see who's playing who, where are you playing them. They're the new kids on the block. I think that's probably the most compelling storyline by far.
They play 9 games? No? Okay, who cares? No, seriously, it's stupid. It's one of those things where I tell myself before a schedule release comes out, it's like, oh, who cares? It's a list of games about when. And then it comes out and I just go through it and pour through it and I get super excited. So I am excited to see it. I do want to see, especially with Oklahoma and Texas joining the league, the matchups they get, because as you said, Chip, they are going to split. Everybody's going to play at least one of them in that first season. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm assuming they will give Texas to Texas A&M, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll give Texas A&M Oklahoma. We'll see what kind of reaction that causes. But yeah, I just want to see the matchups. I want to see what it looks like. I'm looking forward to it, even if it is just a schedule and it's not even this year's.
I'm excited to see just more matchups of the former East teams against the former West teams, right? And one thing I think you got to give the Big Ten credit for, whether or not you think playing 9 games was important or unimportant, is that they really did a good job not keeping rivalries that are not true rivalries that people don't seem to care about, aside, especially rivalries that are like, we need both fan bases to actually care about them. So maybe we don't have to watch like South Carolina A&M or whatever other forced rivalry that you want to say is a rival, because there's no rivalry there. So more diversity in terms of who you're going to play on an annual basis, I think will be a lot of fun. I think Chip Brown had Bama going to Texas or Texas going to Bama, and Georgia going to Alabama. So some heavy hitters at SEC for sure is going to have some nice matchups next year and this year. I mean, they always have good games.
Yeah, reportedly, Georgia will be going to Austin to play Texas. So that will be one when you're doing your Georgia-Oklahoma thing. Texas A&M will play host to Texas in that.
Yeah. Thanksgiving. Come on, put it on Thanksgiving.
That's what we're really excited about here is we get Texas and Texas A&M back on the field once again. There's going to be a lot more to chew on, and certainly a little bit to dive into on Thursday once we actually get to see who ends up getting the better end of the draw. So we begin with the Cover 3 coach draft with a review of what we had in last year's coach draft. Danny had the first overall pick, and he went with Nick Saban. He added that with defensive coordinator Jim Knowles from Ohio State in the 2nd round, offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh in the 3rd, offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby from Oklahoma in the 4th, defensive line coach Bo Davis, a motivational speaker himself, in the 5th, And Dre Bly, no longer with the North Carolina Tar Heels, defensive backs coach in the 6th. Danny, what'd you think about your staff? Looking back at it.
The heavy on the Oklahoma, aspect there did not pay off necessarily. Still think they're good coaches. Still think they might even be in the conversation this year to get drafted. I'd take Bo Davis again just for the speech on the bus, the butt chewing.
Yep.
I feel good about Jim Knowles still. The Saban one, it was an automatic last year. This year, I don't know if it is such an automatic, even though it didn't pay off.
I would pay money to watch Bo Davis give a speech after coaching with Dre Bly and Jim Knowles, given what those two defenses did last year in big games in terms of the explosive plays given up. He's like, my D-line's getting pressure, and why show up, right? Yeah, that's Bo Davis motivational speech part 2. I'm in for it on Denny's team.
I had the 2nd overall pick. It was Larry Johnson in the 1st round, the defensive line coach from Ohio State. Phil Parker, defensive coordinator from Iowa in the 2nd. Gary Patterson, assistant head coach from Texas in the 3rd. Jeff Grimes, offensive coordinator from Baylor in the 4th. Ryan Day, head coach of The Ohio State University in the 5th. And tight ends coach from Texas A&M, James Coley, down in the 6th. I will say that obviously Larry Johnson, Phil Parker, Gary Patterson, we had things started out well. Ryan Day, very happy with my head coach. Jeff Grimes' stock was higher going into the 2022 season than it was after last year. A lot of turnover there, but I think the quarterback position, the development, the management, when they decided to go with who, and injuries played a role in some of that. Baylor's offense definitely left something to be desired there. Tom, in the 3rd spot last year, took Kirby Smart.
National champion.
Worked out well. Defensive line coach Al Washington from Notre Dame in the 2nd. Vince Morrow, tight ends coach from Kentucky in the 3rd. Dell McGee, running backs
National
coach
champion
from Georgia in the 4th. Andy Ludwig, offensive coordinator.
Two-time Pac-12 champion.
Utah in the 5th. And Ryan Walters.
Top 3 defense, now the head coach of Purdue.
In the 6th round. It was a homer pick at the time.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. No, you introduced it as a homer pick, and you were like, I got to save this for last because you guys don't know about this guy. Ha, ha, ha.
But who did? Who knew?
This
is like getting Marvin Harrison in the 4th round of a wide receiver draft. That's what that was.
Tom listens to too many draft podcasts. He's got an edge on this.
The first pick, right?
No, he had the 3rd pick. He did this all from the 3 spot.
Oh, I'm saying we have a draft podcast called With the First Pick.
Yeah.
There
I'm trying to be a company man here. Look at that. There you
go. Ryan Wilson, Rick Spielman, always, just because the NFL draft is behind us, the 2024 NFL draft right around the corner. Be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcast. But from the 4th spot, went with Brian Hartline, then a wide receivers coach at Ohio State University. Followed it up with Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. Dabo Sweeney, head coach at Clemson. Kendall Briles, offensive coordinator at Arkansas, now at TCU. Todd Bates, defensive line coach at Oklahoma. And Jim, help me out with it, offensive line coach at Morgan State.
Halsick.
There we go. Bud, what do you think looking back on it?
Feel pretty good. I mean, like Hartline got promoted. Leonard, I
run out of town.
I mean, is anybody on this podcast really turning down Jim Leonard as their DC?
You got to run out of town.
Now, Dabo not using the portal. He's not on my list this year. All right. Yeah. But, if I had to draft 5 or 6, he'd be on there. Kendall Briles, I think, still
run out of town.
Upgraded. I think TCU is a better job than Arkansas. Todd Bates is probably the only one I wouldn't have on the list this year. Their D-line has not been what I thought it'd be at Oklahoma. But he did a nice job at Clemson, so it's just 1 year. And Oregon State ran inside zone about 25 times in a row, beating Oregon. And if you're Jim Halsick, do you even show up to the Nike Coach of the Year clinic, or you just say, hey, I'm going to send in these cut-ups. If you want to see just an absolute thing of beauty, almost as nice as this painting behind me here at my hotel for the Elite 11. Just watch this front inside zone. This is just absolutely beautiful, a work of art. So pretty good. I mean, I think Tom might have won this.
Might have definitely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And do you know what the sneaky tipping point for me is? Well, he probably won it, but what put it over the top was Notre Dame's defensive line was sick last year. Like we criticized the offense. They had the quarterback issues. They didn't have a huge passing game, but that defense was still pretty nasty. Isaiah Foskey had a huge season, and they continued to be just absolutely tenacious in terms of getting into the backfield with havoc causing plays. And that has been something that has been right there with Washington and the Fighting Irish for a while. I was impressed by that one for sure. I agree. I think Tom won this. Dang, Tom's just taking belts here during draft season.
Some of us are champions. That's all I'm saying.
I would like to defend the first 2 picks in the BJ Oklahoma draft, by the way. Kelvin Banks and Jaheim Otis are 2 like the freakiest freaks you'll ever see for how well they move at that size. And Amarius Mims is as well. Like I if you see those guys in person, you'll get it.
How wide is an Oklahoma drill?
If you're in the what now?
How wide is the Oklahoma drill again?
Well, when my 2 offensive linemen line them next to each other, it's going to be about
so it doesn't really move
about 7 feet wide.
Doesn't really matter how well they move side to side. Then it's just who gets off the ball and gets the most power going forward. Then
correct. Yeah.
All right.
And can you explain Aiden Robbins, because we just looked up his bio live on the show after it was introduced?
Boy, he's a lot of beef. Trying to run you over. You're not going to get a lot of clean shots at him, right? Because my guys are going to be blocking you into oblivion. So he's going to run through those arm tackles that my guys are going to, are going to create.
Listen, I have no problem with your first 2 picks because at least you didn't pick 250-pound players like Chip did to start his draft.
Listen, chip on the shoulder. That's what the Chip team is about. Okay, it's about that dog. All right, no one's questioning the dog we got. Let's go. All right. Coming up on the other side, we turn the page from 2022 to 2023. It is time for the 2023 Cover 3 Coach Draft. We'll get into that and more next.
A jam-packed weekend of sports leading ladies. Start your mornings on the hardwood with 2 days of WNBA action. Then spend an afternoon at the links with the final round of the Meyer LPGA Classic. Finish your days on the pitch where our NWSL stars shine on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, and we begin with Danny Cannell in the 1,1 spot. Danny, get us started. Who is your first selection to the coach draft?
So I'll be really curious to see who goes with who you go with 2, Chip and everybody else, because I think there's only one head coach. In past years, I think you can make case for 2 or 3 that you'd go 1, 2, 3, and you'd want them quick before anybody else could snatch them up. But since I have the number 1 pick, I'll take the best coach in college football right now. Give me Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart goes 1, 2, Danny Cannell. I will keep it in Athens.
Who did the number 1 pick play for last year? Which team was he on?
He didn't play. Listen.
I'm saying, whose team was he on last year in the coaching draft? Oh, mine. That's right. It's like yet again another draft in which the very first pick is somebody that I drafted last year. That's crazy how that happens.
I'm going to keep it in Athens. So obviously I'm not taking a head coach. I will go with defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann for my first pick.
That's good news.
Bud.
You're on the clock.
Yes, have me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my AirPods disconnected. So Apple, you're not on the nice list right now. All right. Damn, because they took. All right, Kirby obviously I think is a really good pick. I just think I don't need this guy to coach another 10 years. Can you give me another 3 or 4 really good years? Best coach in the history of football, at least college football. Give me Nick Saban.
Nick Saban. Downgraded from 1 to 3. That's you miss out on you lose by 1 score at Tennessee and by 1 score at LSU, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself tumbling down the draft boards. Tom, you're on the corner. Who you like?
Well, trying to figure out if I want this head coach desperately and if I want to risk Chip taking him, but I don't think Chip's gonna take him. So I'm going to start with my offensive coordinator. I'm going to take Garrett Riley, the offensive coordinator at Clemson, for my first pick. And then for my second pick, because I got to have somebody on the other side of the ball, I'm going to take Phil Parker, the Iowa defensive coordinator. So Phil Parker is going to be living in an entirely new world where he's on the sideline as the offense is on the field and they are actually scoring points. And maybe it's going to take him some time to adjust. But I think combining Phil Parker's defensive prowess with Garrett Riley's offensive prowess, I can be the head coach. We're going to win games.
But when we come back next year and it's another 8-4 season for Iowa,
with like a top 5 defense.
Yeah, with like average allowing 11 points per game.
Yeah,
but they've improved all the way to like 92nd in offense.
Well, you were tooting your horn for all those national championships on your last year's squad, so we'll just remember that.
Just say, hey, Clemson might win the national title this year.
No, I'm not. I have no problem with the Garrett Riley pick.
Just
right,
I know he's well
I have Phil
compensated.
Parker on my list too.
Yeah,
But like Phil Parker has a level of professionalism and just do your job about him that I think we all could aspire to, right? I mean, like he has to walk into that building and be like, "All right, direct deposit hit. Let's go be an awesome defense again." Really, like looks over to the offensive meeting room. Oh, lawsuit didn't settle in time. Okay, we're running this back. All right.
Well, like,
Cool.
and he's also
Again.
There's something else too. Like Phil Parker always has the results, but there's also just and I am not, not as we discussed in the Oklahoma drill draft, I'm light on experience in the locker room myself, but there's something about the teaching aspect. I mean, you don't go from being these like evaluation, sure, but also like teaching the fundamentals. You don't turn 3 stars into the NFL draft picks without being able to help them improve along the way. These guys got low ratings as high school prospects because of their physical skill set. Then they're able to overcome that in addition to being able to put on some weight and be able to improve. So I like teaching the game of being an elite defense is something that I've always put in Phil Parker's book as well.
We're going to win games 49-10 every week. That's what my team is doing.
All right, Bud, your second pick to go with Nick Saban.
A guy that just plays awesome defense every time for this school. Like the offense recently has been a little bit better. I actually have 2 DC choices I like a lot here, but I got 3 offensive coordinator choices, so I can wait on one of them potentially and get him around the turn. This guy on my almost list last year, I thought they played pretty good defense. I'm going to take Matt House of LSU.
Yeah,
Guy, he's got NFL experience. I think they recruit well. I think Matt House does a really good job.
They took a huge step forward last year.
Yeah, surging up the big board after what we saw from that group last year. And I don't have the scheme eye that others do, but schemers say that the way that everything was sort of cooked up and called was very impressive and good, especially for the tools that he had right there.
Confusing.
No hate for there. All right. Joining Glenn Schumann, we're going to address the offensive side of the ball. We're going to go with someone.
Should we note that like you can't take a coordinator as one of your wild cards just for the audience following at home?
I thought we
already
discussed
say that,
right?
I've had audio issues today. Apologies, guys.
Well, I mean, like you can't load up with offensive coordinators, right? I mean, that was like at the very beginning of when we launched the coach draft. You can't be like, okay, and just be like, my next pick is a great example. Okay, I cannot use Brian Hartline as a wild card wide receiver coach.
Mm-hmm.
He has been promoted to offensive coordinator, so therefore he is my offensive coordinator. I stand by the pick because he's going to kill it on the recruiting trail. His development at the wide receiver position is still going to give my staff the explosiveness that you need in the modern game. And, frankly, I think that we're looking at him as, even though he just got promoted, as one of the top 4 or 5 offensive coordinators in the entire country. I feel like this is a good opportunity to go ahead and snap him up. So give me the offensive coordinator from the Buckeyes.
See, now I had go ahead.
No, I would say you guys have snatched a lot of mine, which is good. I think we're all on the same page. I expected this to happen. What were you going to say, Tom?
I was just going to say I had a strategy in mind with Chip's pick, and I'm really interested to see what he does in the 3rd round now, because I want to see if he's thinking the same way that I am. I doubt it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead.
Asshole.
I love the game theory that's taking place here with Tom. He's always thinking step ahead.
Chip dumb, Tom smart.
That's right. That's right.
All right. For my defensive coordinator pick, I'm going to go with a guy who I think was a perfect fit for this spot. I think they could have a huge breakout year. I think we've appreciated him more as a head coach now that he's been gone from where he was, where there was a pretty dramatic drop-off. But maybe he's just best served in a coordinator role. Give me Manny Diaz from Penn State.
Ooh.
That defense is going to be good this year.
Defense is
It
going to
was
be
good last year. It's good most years, but it's going to be good again this year.
They're going to be good. I like his scheme. I like his aggressive nature. I like the way he dials up pressures. And then for my offensive coordinator / offensive line coach, give me Sherrone Moore, Michigan. I can't get him as my offensive line coach, right? It's the same as Brian
Correct.
Hartline. We just
Correct.
talked about that.
Okay.
I'm
So-
I'm calling plays.
All right,
I'm
back
Harbaugh.
back to Chip. Let me make sure. Or did we just lose Bud?
Yes, we did.
Oh no.
I'll make his picks for him.
Oh no. All right.
Good.
So we have addressed the offensive coordinator. We've still got the defensive coordinator. I'm going to go to defensive line. Yeah, let's just go right back to my bag. Yeah, why not? Larry Johnson. Don't overthink this. He was my first round pick last year. I still think he's an elite defensive line coach. He's an incredible recruiter, and we're looking at an Ohio State defensive line that has had some names come through where we had this the Chase Young, Bosa level expectations, and they weren't always realized. But I think with Big Bear, Jack Sawyer, and a few other boys up there on the line, I think that we're going to see that group continue to be a little bit tenacious and get back after it this year. So give me Larry Johnson here in the third, defensive line coach.
I'm actually kind of upset that Bud got back in time because Jordan was going to take Brian Ferentz as his offensive coordinator.
Yeah, this technology. I was already not going to be on the show tomorrow, but now I'm definitely not going to be on the show. I'm going to go with Alex Atkins here.
Yep.
I thought there was three guys that I thought might get picked. Chip took one. Danny took one. I think Atkins is one of the best recruiters in the country. They do a lot of really diverse stuff with their run schemes. He's got a little Mike Norvell in the offense, right? Willie Fritz in the offense. A lot of good offensive influences. I think he'll be a head coach someday, and by far FSU's best offensive or best recruiter, and I think a really good schematic guy. And forever, they were the laughing stock of the league, right, on the offensive line, and now they're it's actually a strength. So I think the guy's a stud.
My favorite little thing for those watching on the YouTube right now is that Jordan had Alex Atkins, OC filled in right off the bat. And then he was sitting there waiting for Bud to give him any hint as to where Alex Atkins was the coach before he finally put FSU in. Those are the little things I love.
Yeah.
All right. So we are closed out on DCs and OCs across the board. It's all coordinators or head coaches from this point on, or not assistants or head coaches. So I better take some assistants, seeing as how two of you already have head coaches.
That's a huge game theory mistake by me. I should have just waited since y'all can't take another OC. Yeah.
Well, you see, this is why I win the drafts. This is why I win. Yeah. Give me Del McGee, the running backs coach at Georgia.
Back to the well.
Oh, God, you got to get that talent. You got to get the players. And then let's see. Do I want to go there? Let's see. Got to have a defensive line coach. Give me Al Washington from Notre Dame.
Shocking.
All right, so far for those listening at home, Danny is halfway through. He's got Kirby Smart as his head coach. He's got Manny Diaz from Penn State as his defensive coordinator, Sharon Moore from Michigan as his offensive coordinator. I've got Glenn Schumann as my defensive coordinator from Georgia, Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator from Ohio State, Larry Johnson, defensive line coach from Ohio State. We've got Nick Saban leading the charge for Bud as head coach, with Matt House as defensive coordinator, Alex Atkins from Florida State as offensive coordinator. Tom's got Garrett Riley as his offensive coordinator, Phil Parker as his defensive coordinator, Del McGee as a running backs coach, Al Washington as a defensive line coach. So still got some wild cards for Danny. Chip still needs 2 wild cards and a head coach. Bud still needs 3 wild cards, and Tom, with 2 picks left, needs to fill his head coach and 1 wild card. And coming up on the other side, we continue rounding out our Cover 3 coach draft, including who won the draft and the best names left off. Next.
And how about this? Get ready for non-stop action that will have you saying, "You gotta be kidding!" Oh my, Canada! What a play and what a finish! That's some pretty good football, eh? He's gone all the way to the house. It's the Canadian Football League, Friday on CBS Sports Network.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, Bud, 4th round. It is on to you. Where are you going?
I'm going to stick with this little run of Georgia coaches. I'm surprised he's still on the board here. One of the best recruiters in the country. His position room, obviously, is just filled with freaks. Give me Todd Hartley at Georgia. I think this guy is a rising star in the industry. Really knows what he's doing, and I'm liking this. The aggressive run game with Atkins and Hartley on offense. We got Nick Saban managing the whole thing, defensive mind, along with Matt House. I feel good about this.
I'm going to go and beef up the offensive line right here. We saw, and great recruiter too, but the offensive line development at Oregon was really, really good. He went and got a couple of the best offensive line prospects from this upcoming recruiting class, brought in some good guys from the transfer portal as well. If this program is going to have the step forward that it absolutely needs for its head coach, then Alex Mirabal is going to be a big part of it. So I'm going to go with Alex Mirabal from Miami as my offensive line coach.
Yeah, the way they're recruiting O-line with the 2 kids they just got, they're going to mess up the rest of the league. They're going to move people out of the way.
And the flip side of it is that I've pointed to one of the theories that I have for ACC football in general is that there are not a lot of dominant offensive lines in that conference, and that oftentimes in an ACC football conference game, the defensive lines are better than the offensive lines. So it's just not easy to be able to see any kind of competent offensive football on a regular basis. If Miami flips itself into a team with a nasty offensive line, then that is a way to be a differentiator, just because there's not a lot of those all throughout the conference. And obviously, like I said, Mirabal's got to be a part of it. So it'll be interesting to watch. Danny, back to you on the turn.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple homer picks.
Let's go.
Not necessarily how you're thinking, though.
Ooh.
Both of them former teammates of mine.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Billy Napier. Oh, no, you've already got it.
No, definitely not. I'm going to go for my defensive line coach. Give me Nick Eason from Clemson. Lengthy NFL career. Clemson's defensive line, I think they've got a ton of talent up front. Dude played in the NFL quite a while. I think he's a great recruiter. I think he'll be able to relate to a lot of these kids. I think he'll be able to maximize what he gets out of them. And we mentioned the offensive line being able to push around people in the ACC. It's pretty much everybody but Clemson teams have been able to push around. So I'll take Nick Eason. And then for my wide receivers coach, I will go with former teammate of mine in Tallahassee. Give me Ron Dugans, Florida State's wide receiver coach, he told me 2 years ago, I saw him at the spring game, and he's like, we're finally starting to get some guys that can come in here and play. And that was before we saw what Johnny Wilson was this year. They're getting healthy. They've got size. He's got Keon Coleman. So I think he's going to do a phenomenal job there with the veteran quarterback. So give me Dukes.
He's got, who he's got visiting on Monday?
Who?
Jeremiah Smith, number one receiver. Chip, got to get on the horn, the Heartline, man. Knowles 24/7 reported that Jeremiah Smith's coming in for a visit on Monday, number one receiver in the country. So battle between Danny and Chip.
Well, no, it's bad news for the Buckeyes because Heartline's already recruiting for me. Okay, he found out about our limitless resources that we have here at CPU, and he's going to go to whoever pays him the most. Danny, was Eason your teammate in Denver? Is that right?
Yes, but the story on him, did I tell you what happened to him?
I think so.
So yeah, he actually quit. So that it usually happens every fall camp, whether it was in college in Tallahassee, whether it was with the Giants, Broncos, the Falcons, wherever it was, somebody would always drop out. I mean, it's kind of like the Navy SEALs when you ring the bell, somebody just taps out, like it's too much for them. And one day we come to practice, everybody's like, "Where's Nick Eason? Like, where is he?" And he had quit and gone home. And they had to like find him, go back and get him. And he came, he ended up working out pretty well for him, but he was quitting. He was going to quit football.
Did you see the videos of him going through the mat drills in like January and February?
I didn't.
He was going through them himself and tearing it up.
Even better. Now I like the pick even more.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And all the defensive linemen loved it. The fact that he was getting out there with the ropes and going through it. It was cool. I'm a big Nick Eason fan. I think that was a good addition for Clemson to bring the former Tiger back home. On Mondays during the season, at least until the college football playoff rankings come out, one of the activities that we do here on the Cover 3 podcast involves taking a look at the new AP and coaches poll, just kind of making some, not necessarily reporting who's moving up and down, but some interesting comments on ballots and the movement. What's the name of that segment called?
Upon further review.
No, it's called Poll Assassin.
Damn.
Upon further review is the show. So in honor of the Poll Assassin, Jeff Banks, special teams coordinator, excellent recruiter. We get that, that extra little bit of sauce that you need just to be able to keep everybody on their toes. And I just think that that's going to be good for, just the overall vibes to be able to have a good people person like Jeff Banks in the house. So give me Jeff Banks, special teams coordinator from Texas.
That is outstanding.
I like it. All right. I know everybody wants me to take it in the chat, wants me to take a D-line coach. There's like 4 or 5 really good D-line coaches still available. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go up to Penn State. I'm going to take Jawan Sider.
Yep.
Yeah. Really, really high level recruiter. Certainly a thorn in the side of all the Florida schools. Coming down and doesn't always win all the battles because it's hard to pluck kids all the way to Happy Valley from Lauderdale. But a guy who has done a really good job in the state for a long time, high level recruiter, good football coach. Hartley and Sider, we're going to have some studs, guys, and I think we'll coach them up.
I mean, you got Nick Saban, Matt House, Alex Atkins. Yeah, everybody knows their role on Bud's. You've put it together in the true the way that I'm sure that a listener is imagining, because
I didn't pick an offensive line coach because I got Atkins as my, as my OC.
That's smart. It works out. And I didn't take a wide receiver coach because I got Heartline. I mean, there's some thinking behind this. It's a little bit more than just big board and go. All right, Tom, you've got already Garrett Riley, Phil Parker, Del McGee, and Al Washington, and an OC, a DC, running backs coach, and a defensive line coach. We still need a head coach and one more wild card. Where are we going?
Well, there's a lot of DB coaches on my board, but I don't need to take one because I've got Phil Parker. So what I am going to do is I've got one side of the trenches addressed with Al Washington, who can both coach up defensive linemen and acquire talent for my roster. I'm going to get me somebody who can coach up some offensive linemen and acquire talent for my roster. I'm going back to the well, man. Heading back to Athens, Danny's favorite campus in the country. Give me Stacy Searles to coach my offensive line.
Sider's a running backs coach, by the way, for those watching live.
George's got DL
on the dock right now. But yeah, so that means that now it was pointed out that going into this, before Tom's pick here at the end of the 5th round, that we already had one Georgia coach on everyone's coaching staff. Now Tom's got 2. All right, Tom, close it out.
You know, there are other Georgia's coaches that are still on my board that I can't draft because I've got those spots already filled. So I guess I'm going to take my head coach. Now, I could have a family reunion if I really wanted to, but I don't really need 2 Rileys in the same room. They both kind of do the same thing and talk to each other anyway. So having them working together is really pointless. So I'm just going to go with the head coach here. And there are 2 candidates that I would take. And I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to take. But I think even though one of them has won 2 conference titles in recent years and been to the college football playoff each of the last 2 years, I've got to go with this other one just because I've admired his work for far longer. Give me Brian Kelly. I mean, I think putting Brian Kelly with the staff I currently have right now, I am going to be able to do quite a bit of damage at Fornelli Tech.
I like that pick.
Oh, he
kicked
it down the line to me. Oh man. All right,
gosh, Chip's gonna get
Yeah, I'm getting roasted one way or the other. He just that punted it. I'll take Brian Kelly.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. All right, I think George will cut my internet off if we do not take a Tennessee coach. So, long time, good recruiter in the SEC, good coach. Jordan, you want to take Rodney Garner here? Play Rocky Top.
Yeah.
Rodney Garner, Tennessee. I like this staff. This is quality, Team BJ.
I know because Danny went with Kirby Smart in the first round. Bud went with Nick Saban in the first round. Tom and Chip were left with head coaching opportunities. And I figured that Brian Kelly was one of the ways that could, throw a wrinkle in this. My hope inside the war room was that we'd be looking at a Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney situation. Tom would take one, I would take the other. Now, by taking Brian Kelly, he's left us in a position where either a 2-time national champion with 6 college football playoff appearances and 7 conference titles in the last 8 years might go undrafted in the Cover 3 coach draft.
Hold on, I gotta type up this tweet. Wow, Chip just took over.
Or Ryan Day, whose cumulative record as a head football coach at the college level is 45-6, is going to go undrafted. Now, one of those 2 things is going to happen based on this next decision. Dabo.
Also, Chip.
Yeah.
You're taking Dabo?
Dabo.
Oh.
Yeah. No, come on.
I like it.
Yeah, no, this is look at everything else that I have stacked together. I need the CEO. Like, I need somebody who's going to be out there taking care of all the big picture stuff. I don't need the guy who is so dialed into the offensive game plan. He's losing his mind on the 3rd down conversion. Like, I need something that's going to be high level here. And I'm fundamentally not going to allow a 2-time national champion who has played in the college football playoff national championship game 4 times with all of that winning, building it up from little old Clemson. Not going to let that go undrafted here.
Can I ask you a question, though? Sure. Danny, I'm sorry to interrupt the Mr. Irrelevant pick here, but you've got Brian Hartline as your OC, who has never been a play caller, and you're hiring the delegator. So you're putting a lot of trust in Brian Hartline in your program here. Like, you sure you didn't want like Ryan Day or Lincoln Riley around to kind of help with that? Just to be looking over the shoulder?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Not concerned about that? Okay. All right.
Listen, it's not going to come down to being the genius X's and O's guy. We put in so much work. It's just about execution, about being in the right mindset when you get out there on the field. I think we'll have the squad to get us there.
We're getting a lot of Michigan hate in the chat, but like last time I checked, Dabo Swinney's 6-4 in the college football playoff, and Harbaugh's 0-2. Right. So, I mean, 2 rings, no rings.
Doesn't Dabo have like 2 wins over Ohio State as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Plays him far less often.
All right, Danny, back to you. You've got your OC, your DC, your head coach.
The wildest of the wild cards. But Bud kind of pushed me over the edge there because Sharon Moore, Michigan, how much is he really calling the plays? I think it's more Harbaugh based. My guy Dukes isn't calling plays. So you know what? You know what every staff needs, especially when you get to a level like I am at the #1 spot with Kirby Smart. You got a plethora of analysts that you have on your staff, guys that you can get information from. Give me Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
He's my offensive analyst. I need the quarterback experience. I need the, I want to have somebody who can air it out a little bit more. And I think he's going to be on a quick track back to a job somewhere next year if he wants it.
I didn't even think of him. That was a very good pick.
There was another one. So was Jim Leonard draft eligible? Because he's not on a staff anywhere, is he?
No, he's taking a year off sabbatical.
So I didn't know if he was eligible.
He's old and burnt out.
No, that was a good one because there are a lot of the wild card analysts out there. I'm glad that we were able to get Cliff Kingsbury in there. That seems very fair here. I gotta say that I like Jackson's comment right here. Dabo meeting Pole Assassin's monkey at the staff barbecue is going to be something. To review, Danny has head coach Kirby Smart in the first, defensive coordinator Manny Diaz in the second, Sharon Moore, offensive coordinator from Michigan, Nick Eason, defensive line coach from Clemson, Ron Dugans, wide receiver coach from Florida State, Cliff Kingsbury, offensive analyst from USC. I've got Glenn Schumann, defensive coordinator from Georgia, Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator from Ohio State, Larry Johnson, defensive line coach from Ohio State, Alex Mirabal, offensive line coach from Miami, Jeff Banks, special teams coordinator from Texas, and Dabo Sweeney, head coach from Clemson. Bud's got Nick Saban, head coach from Alabama, Matt House, defensive coordinator from LSU, Alex Atkins, offensive coordinator from Florida State, Todd Hartley, tight ends coach from Georgia, and Jawan Sider, running backs coach from Penn State, and Rodney Gardner, defensive line coach from Tennessee. Tom's got Garrett Riley, offensive coordinator from Clemson, Phil Parker, defensive coordinator from Iowa, Del McGee, running backs coach from Georgia, Al Washington, defensive line coach from Notre Dame, Stacy Searles, offensive line coach from Georgia, and Brian Kelly, the head coach from LSU. We got a lot of Georgia out there, a lot of Ohio State, a couple Clemsons out there, a couple LSUs out there. Any other trends that we notice? I see Cliff Kingsbury is the only Pac-12 representative. East.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm somewhat surprised Lincoln Riley didn't get taken.
But how did
I had him as my? I knew I was taken right away, but I didn't know until a few hours before the show. When I was looking yesterday, I had him as a top 3 option.
I had a couple of Pac-12 guys on my almost drafted list. The dude I was kind of debating in my head between Matt House and the other guy was Morgan Scalley at Utah. I think does a really good job out there. Obviously, I like Jim Mahalzik because I drafted him my team last year, and Oregon State did nothing to dissuade that. I wasn't going to take an O-line coach when I already had Atkins as my OC. Dante Williams at USC.
I had Andy Ludwig, Ryan Grubb, and Will Stein. Like if we were in some position where by the time it got back to me, Hartline was gone, Garrett Riley was gone. Like my sort of next up in line at the offensive coordinator are actually all Pac-12 there with Utah, Washington, and Oregon. But again, they fall to the just outside the picture. I also had Chris Hampton kind of on that defensive coordinator consideration list. Jesse Minter, Michigan fans upset that we don't have enough Michigan. I promise you, they were definitely under consideration right here.
I had Jay Harbaugh on my list if I had to get down it. Like if Sider and Hartley were both gone, I was going to probably go Jay Harbaugh. I think he's done a nice job there.
Ooh, yeah, Sean Lewis.
Yeah, I had Sean Lewis on my OC.
Yep.
I have two Pac-12 offensive coordinators left on my board, Sean Lewis and Ryan Grubb. And then one of the things I was going to do, like when I saw I was picking fourth, I had a plan where I might do what I was kind of getting at with you, Chip. I was thinking of taking, depending on how things broke, Lincoln and Hartline as my first 2 picks, because that way I would still get Hartline as the recruiter, but he would be filling my offensive coordinator role, and I'd still be pairing him with Lincoln. But the way things broke, I kind of liked my OCDC position better.
Who else?
I thought D-line was very deep this year, like really deep. Trey Scott not going is kind of nuts. I wanted
He
Trey
didn't
Scott
go
over
last
Gardner.
year either.
I know, but it's a total team effort. So
Yeah.
like Jordan wants a ball. We'll take a ball. Like it's not like Rodney Garner sucks. Like the guy does a really good job. Charlie Partridge.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude just takes 3 stars and puts them in the first round constantly out of Pitt, and I think it's he was my number 1 D-line coach, honestly, like over everybody else, because I mean, you're recruiting these kids to Pitt. The ID's the talent develops it really well. Bo Davis at Texas, I think, is a really good D-line coach, man.
Mike Elston at Michigan is another one.
Yeah, Brian Williams, by the way, like can't because the co-DC thing, but
another
Chad
one
is saying no. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No Bobby Petrino.
I had him on a list.
No way.
Elijah Robinson.
That was if you want to swing for the fences. I mean,
Elijah Robinson too. Like there's a lot of really good young D-line coaches out there right now.
I like the way we do this. We're like we've got this consistent. I think that the head coach, offensive coordinator, 3 wild cards, it seems to lead to everybody being able to highlight some coaches that everybody knows, but also some of our personal favorites. It is also because we're not constructing 10 coach staffs, leads to a lot of fans being like, but what about my guy? Which I guess is good for engagement. But yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it because you are inherently going to miss on guys that you like just because of the way we're doing this.
who do you think is the best? Because I wanted a good quarterback coach. That's what I was thinking that last pick pitch. So I went with Kingsbury. It was hard to find one that's not also the coordinator.
Lincoln Riley's the best QB coach.
Right. So like I was looking at Halsey from Tennessee and Milwee from Texas, just because of the talent they're working with. And I mean, Halsey's been, the offense has been, this quarterback play has been spectacular. And if he gets that again, Heupel's going to get all the credit, but there is a quarterback coach.
You want to have the best way to get promoted to a head coach or a coordinator really fast? Be good at developing the most important position in the sport.
Yep.
Like it's a really consistent pattern, because if you have bad quarterback play, the rest of the stuff doesn't really matter.
I'm really, really disappointed that Bud didn't take Marcus Satterfield. I know that Satterfield's been at the top of, I've seen spreadsheets and documents that he's, been studied by Bud extensively. You ever
play you ever play Omaha high-low?
Yes.
Like if we were playing a low game and Brian Ferentz wasn't available, like I'd definitely go there. Yeah. Two offensive coordinators I thought deserved mention. Kansas's guy, I'm going to botch how you say his name. I just really like what Kansas does. Andy Kotelnicki.
Yep.
Kotelnicki. All right. Yeah, I think he does a tremendous job. And Kevin Johns at Duke, I think is a really good play caller. They keep people off balance there. I know the quarterback's a stud, but I think they, even independent of him, they do a nice job.
Any other names or other
I have
takeaways?
A lot left on my board.
All right, let's hear
another
it.
DL coach, and this also goes to Homer pick. I mean, Illinois had one of the best defensive lines last year. It's expected to have one of the best defensive lines in the country again this year. Terrence Jamison, the defensive line coach for the Illini. I had Tony Alford, the running backs coach at Ohio State. Charles Kelly, the safeties coach at Alabama. Vince Marrow, the tight end coach at Kentucky. Mike Elston, the DL coach at Michigan. Both the secondary coaches at Penn State, who have put a lot of dudes in the NFL the last few years. Terry Smith and Anthony Poindexter, kind of a combination there. And then Fran Brown, the defensive backs coach at Georgia, too. Another Georgia coach that was also on my board.
Charles Kelly.
Did you guys have Kyle Flood?
Colorado?
I had Charles Kelly from Colorado on mine.
Yeah.
Charles Kelly is the DC at Colorado now.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, he left for Colorado. Yep.
Oh, yeah, Liam Cohen, now that he's back at Kentucky. I mean, I'm not going to pick him over anyone that got picked, but definitely
he was on so there were a couple of do not draft guys.
Yeah.
Phil Longo was another one. Just want to see what it looks like first, first year plays. They might crush it. They might be awesome. Or breaking in new quarterbacks. That was an issue.
Yeah, I was going to do too, like Aaron Henry, the new defensive coordinator Illinois because he was the secondary coach for Illinois the last year, which I don't know if you noticed, put quite a few guys in the draft last season, but he hasn't been a DC yet. So I didn't want to actually put him on my board. So it wasn't like a Ryan Walters situation last year, which was not just a homer pick, Chip.
In honor of my Scott Cochran pick, I wanted to go with a strength coach somewhere. Kaz Kazadi. Remember how many guys talked about him at TCU who were like, he helped us get here? And I do think after coordinator, strength coach is probably the most important position out there, but you don't get much credit. I thought it was pretty cool that TCU acknowledged him so much.
He's the dude you see more often. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach Kaz at media days was mentioned as often as Sonny Dykes.
Strength coach draft. Who's doing it?
Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so Bud, you're going to be at Elite 11. Be sure to follow him for updates from throughout the camp. And then when you're back next week, we'll get a good recap of how everybody looked. So very much enjoy that. We are going to, as a piece of the mailbag, include a secondary draft for Thursday. So what do we say? 2 corners,
3 corners, 2 safeties.
3 corners, 2 safeties. Okay, so there we go. So the secondary draft will be included as part of the mailbag. Come and hang out. We'll be answering questions all throughout. Don't worry, Bud. Team BJ will ride strong as we continue and wrap up our draft season. So come join us Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Yes, Bud.
Now, Jordan, we took Garner. We saw this last year, right? We could not be just loading up on 10. Secondary like that. All right.
No, yeah, I'm seeing a shaking head. Doesn't seem like that was enjoyed by our fantastic producer. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernell. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Another draft won by me.